What's up, guys? Chris here from Mainly Mesh. Theory Thursday this week, talking about the theory of having a, quote, gamer. So, at Mainly Mesh, we've used a ton of different heads. And for the last, 6 or so months, we've been trying to go through any and every head we can to try to develop the best pocket for it, so on and so forth. But Sam and I are both firm believers in the idea of having a gamer, having that one stick that you know better than any other, that you can really express yourself with, and that is the true extension of your body. And it's a concept that can sometimes get lost. So we just want to share with you guys our opinions on having a gamer. So when I was a kid, I came up, I had my first beginner stick, and then I'll never forget, with my first upgrade, I got to choose a new stick, and I chose between the STX Aero and the Gate Torque. Now, there's a whole different backstory of, what if I had chosen the Aero, probably never would have learned how to string, blah, blah, blah. But I chose the Gate Torque, and that was in 6th grade, and then I used the Gate Torque from 6th grade through 12th grade, my last year of high school. And what that meant is that I had so many reps with one head that I understood every physical property about that head, not just mentally, but physically. So I had that muscle memory of thousands of hours of wall ball stored in that one stick. So now, whenever I pick up a torque, it doesn't matter how it's strung necessarily, I can feel it in my hands, and my body goes into the same mechanics that I've gone through thousands of times before. And so it allows for a type of consistency with the Gate Torque that I don't necessarily have with other heads. That extended to college, where it was tough for me because all of a sudden I had to adjust to these new stick rules. So for my first really year of college, I couldn't really find a new gamer. I didn't have a head that I liked. I tried the X6 spec heads. I tried the Brian Clutch X6. I didn't like it. I had the original Surgeon 10, it wasn't quite working out for me. I went to a Nike CEO, and I just was bouncing back and forth, and I could get 90% of my play down, but those instinctual passes, those things that you do when you're not thinking about your stick, those muscle memory movements, I just didn't have. To the point where my coach sat me down my freshman year of college and said, "Chris, you need to find yourself a stick and stay with it. I don't care what it is, but you need to have that one stick." So fortunately enough for me, I was able to sit with the CEO for about a year or so, but then I found the Warrior Nas, and as you guys know, that quickly became my new gamer. And so the Warrior Nas is really the only other head I have that I know inside and out. I can pick up a Nas regardless of how it's strung, and I understand the feel of the head, and I understand how I need to adjust those mechanics. So that's my second gamer. Now, obviously, I'm in the third stage of finding a new gamer, and I'm close, but I just want to also show you all what that means. So we're going to take a quick break before we do our final explanation of what we believe to be a gamer, to just show you. So if I go back to the very beginning, the Gate Torque, and I pick up a Gate Torque. I was shooting this morning, I will say, but I haven't picked this up in 4 or 5 hours, and I get the feel of it in the stick. It's the same kind of mid-pocket I've always had. It's not necessarily a stick I've always used. And what I can do, though, is I'm going to get the general area of the net, but where it really starts to come into play is when I'm talking about these just instinctual movements. So if I'm aiming for the top right corner, it's not just the shot, but it's if you're coming down, you're not thinking, and you throw that Canadian, you throw the little underhand scoop shot, that would have been cool. Those instinctual things when you switch lefty and there's no difference, it's that type of understanding of the stick that you don't really have with non-gamers. Same thing if I go ahead and pick up the Warrior Nas. And so this is a better example because this has been hanging on the wall for the last 2 months. And this was the stick I used for 1.5 years. I haven't thrown with this thing. I cradle with it for a few seconds, get the feel of the head back, and same thing. I'm a little bit lower there. But within 2 passes, I know exactly where this thing's going. And I have that muscle memory, So when I'm doing my random stuff, if I'm coming down and I do my little Canadian, oh, that was a bad example, but you see what I'm saying is that I understand how this stick is going to perform. Now, I get into some more unknown territory where I'm working on this RP3 with a different type of mesh that I don't understand as well. And this is where I can get those basic movements down, but if I come down and I throw a quick Canadian, or I throw something that I'm not used to, a lefty behind the back, I don't understand how that stick's functioning. And then if we break it down even further to this epic hawk, which I just picked up off a rack. Sam used this for a while. I've never used a hawk in my gamer. And I can dial it in shot-wise. You know, I can understand the general area like that, but it's the same thing. I go down, I try to throw something funky. I'm a little too accurate with this. I try a really hard shot, and it's not that upper echelon of consistency. So what we're saying, I guess, is that you can be good with any stick. But the difference for a lot of people between being good and being great is those extra 10% of reps. And making those extra 10% of reps with the same head. Sam used the Proton U all through college. He might have used 20, breaking them so much, I might have used 15 torques. But we use the same head. And it's not even to say that we are the great players out there, because look at a guy like Lyle Thompson, the greatest player, in my opinion, ever, and certainly the most, and now I can say it, the all-time leading point scorer in college history. He's used a Nas X for the last 2 years. I've seen it strung a few different ways. I've seen him use a few different types, but he knows that head so well that he can do anything with it. And I'm not sure if you guys remember, in the playoffs last year, he had a purple to yellow faded Nas with white mesh. And at some point during that game, that head must have broken because he switched to a white Nas with yellow mesh. And we know that mesh is somewhat different than what he was using in his gamer because of the color. And he took about 3 or 4 shots where he was doing his usual Lyle, wrap around, crazy behind the back, and he missed. And they weren't off by much, but they were off by that little bit that we're used to Lyle Thompson hitting every time. And to me, the reason is because all of a sudden his gamer wasn't quite his gamer anymore. And you see that with all of these college guys. They might go through 4 different heads, it might be different colored, but they're using the same head, they're using the same pocket, they're using the same mesh. And they're Joey Sankey, another great example Sam's reminding me of. He uses the same head and the same pattern of his pocket. He's used it all through college. And so you see the upper echelon of guys are getting those extra reps, getting those, the thousands of reps with their one stick that they're used to create that ultimate muscle memory so that the stick is truly an extension of your body. You can hone in your shot with any head and shaft on the market, but it is very important to have your gamer and have a backup of your gamer that you can have at the ready. And we say this not just as you guys are buying way too much stuff, you need to calm down, but to understand that what we want to do is we want to educate you as a consumer. And so there are heads that come out that are very different. The Epic Hawk is very different. The Brian King is very different. A lot of these heads are different and have different qualities, and it's going to take you a little while to find the one that best suits you. But once you find it, stay with it. Not just for the season, not just for 3 months. Stay with it for 3 years. Stay with it for 4 years. Use that stick, use that mesh, use that pattern. Once you feel it, and just stay with it and get the reps like that. And that's when the stick, all of a sudden, instead of changing every 3 months and having to deal with the new weight of a new stick, your body's almost relearning lacrosse every time you do that. You stick with the same stick, and all of a sudden, this stick, instead of being a separate entity made out of carbon fiber or alloy or wood or plastic or composite, becomes a part of your flesh and your blood and a part of your spirit and a part of the game that we call lacrosse. So that's what we consider to be a gamer. Feel free to add any more comments down below. Thanks so much.